Coming up next on Tech News Today, Apple has its own smart glasses in the works. Google's going to help you scan all of those old Polaroids. Blue phones, at least a small portion of the blue phones, have been sending user data to China. DJI unveiled a couple of new drones, some of which were aimed at Hollywood. And Twitter unleashes new tools for managing abuse. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1642, recorded Tuesday, November 15th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to over 100 job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit.
And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to receive a free Tracker Bravo with any purchase.
And by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about technology with you.
Technology with you.
I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. That's totally sign language. This is sign language for technology.
So wiggling your fingers
because you're pretending like you're typing on a keyboard.
Well, you know, I believe
really.
that the keyboard is on its way out. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but you heard it here first. So we're going to have to come up with
what comes in place of the keyboard.
Touching, talking,
swirling, swiping.
Yeah,
sure
swirling.
Swirling.
Yes.
This is technology in the future.
Maybe. Well, the knob that we've seen. You know, the dial, the Surface dial.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Microsoft is partnering with Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Y Combinator founder Sam Altman, who run the nonprofit OpenAI. The organization, which was founded earlier this year, is on a mission to protect humanity from our robot overlords by making them be our slaves and not the other way around. Although that's not exactly how they put it. They say OpenAI will utilize Microsoft's Cloud OS Azure to democratize AI by running its deep learning and neural networks experiments in the cloud. Microsoft also revealed the Azure Bot Service. That's a new program that lets companies and developers store and run bots in the cloud. So OpenAI has stolen researchers from Google and Facebook, but this is an actual partnership with Microsoft. Amazon offers similar, like cloud AI. They offer their cloud customers a similar GPU-focused virtual machine, but a little bit different than what Microsoft will be offering.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of deal that both sides really get a lot out. And I mean, if you're making a good deal, that's kind of what you're shooting for, right? OpenAI gets Microsoft's virtual machine technology, and that's going to help them in kind of enhancing the training of the AI and their simulators kind of behind the scenes. Microsoft's Azure cloud platform is, you know, like you said, that like lots of if you get this top level research happening on the Azure cloud, then it almost legitimizes even further the existence of that cloud for other companies who might want to do similar things. So it's a great example of the kind of the benefit of Azure.
Mm-hmm. And I like OpenAI. I like what they support, even though I'm not a fan of Peter Thiel, and I think Elon Musk is a little cuckoo, but I like him. So yeah,
he's a good kind of cuckoo.
He's the good kind of cuckoo. Yes.
So good stuff there. Bad kind of cuckoo coming up. Tech distraction in the car. It's no joke. It's also apparently really difficult to resist for many drivers. Last year, highway fatalities were saw the largest annual percentage increase in the past 50 years. And so far in 2016, highway deaths have jumped 10.4% over the same period last year. Experts attribute the increase to just the increase in technology use inside vehicles while driving. And yeah, I'm torn on this because as a technology fan, I mean, I'm not torn on the whole using technology in the car because I make sure that I put my phone down anymore. I make sure that notifications are muted. I don't want to know. Less temptation. I don't even want to touch it anymore. And you can't in the state of California. You touch your smartphone, you're breaking the law.
Even to change your music, it's against the law?
Yeah, you can't touch your smartphone while you're driving.
Oh, I never do.
Period. I know, right? Well, and that kind of gets to the kind of the core of my confusion in this whole discussion is that while I appreciate that there are apps like Android Auto, that exist to kind of make things easier, while I appreciate that, let's say Waze, the whole Waze service depends on people who are driving, reporting conditions. Snapchat, allows for posting images that include the speed of the vehicle that you're traveling at.
That's crazy.
So it's like technology companies are working in ways to kind of bring driving into the experience, which goes counter to the idea that we should not be touching technology while we're driving. But what exactly is the line between that and doing something like climate control or radio control, or in the case of running your music off your phone? It's a weird, like, blurry line in between those two, and I can't make sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, that Snapchat feature, it's a filter that says the speed, and yeah, it's kind of just designed for kids who want to show how fast they're driving. But I mean, they would say like it's for the passenger, and there is an alert that says like do not use this while you're driving.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And then like autopilot. This study also talks about autopilot. Some included that in the accidents, the number of accidents, people not understanding what autopilot is. We talked about that yesterday. But I feel like that, I mean, it's hard to say that that's the research that we need to be doing. I don't necessarily think we need to be doing it in people's Teslas right now. Like I would prefer what Google's doing, what other people are doing without people, without actual just guinea pigs that buy the car. But I mean, I'm a firm believer in self-driving cars, and I think that's going to be a lot safer because we'll never stop wanting to change our music or our podcasts while we're driving.
That would be safer eventually, and there's this transition period. I mean, even Obama's transportation secretary, Anthony Fox, he says the near-term effort could be pushing for tighter laws, for enforcement, that sort of stuff. But the longer term would be speeding through autonomous driving technology to really get there. But there's that awkward transition point that we're kind of only at the beginning of. And Kevin, you just showed the article about Facebook Messenger, being able to be displayed on Android Auto. I mean, this is kind of like a prime example of like, I don't know if I want that. Like, I get it. There's another platform. Let's make our apps work on that platform. But that sort of thing really does encourage the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It uses this interface that, let's say, people are okay with. They accept Android Auto as an in-cab, kind of interface for certain things. But then you're using it to push through things that if you were looking to your notification shade on your phone, that would be a really bad idea to do that. So why is it okay to put it on that screen? Like, it's a very blurry line.
Well, Mark Gurman from Bloomberg says that behind closed doors, Apple is working on some smart spectacles of their own. Let's agree not to call them wearable glasses because most eyeglasses have been wearable for a very long time. Gurman says the difference between Apple's glasses that connect to your smartphone and Google Glass is that Apple is going to work on the product until it's ready. Now, all of this comes from Gurman's mostly reliable sources. Apple has not commented publicly about the glasses or whether or not they would be delivered by a giant yellow robot vending machine. So, yeah, this will be out in 2018 at the earliest, if it comes out at all. It'll connect wirelessly to your iPhone. It's their like augmented reality. So it's one of those things that, Mark Gurman says a lot. Most of it is correct. His sources are mostly correct, but sometimes they're working on something that never comes out. So we can't ever prove that they were correct.
The TV, the car. I mean, there are a lot of things that made sense, but that we still have never seen, and it's possible that we never will see. This could absolutely be one of them. It definitely seems like Google was just too far ahead of the curve. Google made a lot of mistakes in Google Glass for sure, but they were definitely one of the first ones to really kind of go down this road and commit to it, at least to a certain degree. Dang it for being one of the first ones there and not quite, like taking the beating, taking the lumps so that others can kind of learn from those mistakes and do something better with it. be very curious to see if Apple ever does this. For some reason, my gut tells me that we'll never see this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but the difference between Apple and Google also is that, Apple makes a lot of products. Like Google's really just, way behind in the making hardware sort of race. So they already have the Apple Watch, which was not a huge success, but maybe made people want to stick with their iPhone, or maybe, wanted to just stay in that, it's like a companion device. It's a device that enhances the iPhone. So I can see where the Apple, like a pair of, smart glasses would also enhance the iPhone, where like a car or an Apple TV, like an actual service, you could see where they ran into problems with that. I don't know. I don't know. I believe in the smart eyeglasses.
I just wonder if it's a little too experimental for Apple, because I feel like Apple has a lot of hardware, like does a lot in hardware, but rarely do they come out with something that is just so far outside of like what you're at least in some way accustomed to being, to accepting. Like smartwatches was a new category, but they I don't know, watches was not a strange concept, right? Technology infused in glasses seems like such a forward future thinking thing that I just don't imagine that all of like Apple fan base would be. I don't know. I feel like that might be just too far outside of the lines for the typical Apple user.
Well, I think what they're doing is waiting and seeing. Like, so...
And
like
they do that well.
The iPad, they started working on prototypes of the iPad in 2000. So it was like, took 10 years. It wasn't until 2010 that they came out. And meanwhile, like, Microsoft had a tablet that everyone was like, why would I want a tablet that runs Windows, And it just like, there were lots of other tablets, and they just waited and to see if it would catch on. And then they introduced something that they'd been working on for a long time. I can see them doing that with the spectacles. I can see them doing that with like a device in the home, like a Google Home or like the Amazon Echo. I do believe, I can really believe that they are making this, and that in 5-10 years, if Snapchat spectacles become something that people really, love, if Google comes out with some sort of similar thing, if augmented reality is a big deal,
right.
That's where you'd wear it on your eyes.
Yeah, they've got their head in the game. Google rolled out some updates to its Google Photos app to help users tweak their photos, better color correction, sharper, that kind of stuff. But beyond that, Google released a new standalone app for Android and iOS called PhotoScan. The app is designed to help users take those old Polaroids and printed photos that are taking up space in the attic and digitize them with a smartphone camera. PhotoScan prompts the user to snap a single image of the photo and then subsequent images of the four corners of the photo. All of those points together give the app what it needs to reject things like reflections and light sources that might appear during the capture process, and that results in a pristine copy of the photo. It's cool technology because I've definitely done this where I want to archive some of these little prints. I have some prints. I've got one right here of me holding a G.I. Joe plane, and like you can see right in the camera, the reflection of the light can interfere. Well, using the app, essentially, it's as if I'm rotating it 4 different ways to get the reflection to go in different areas. And then the app can actually kind of notice the differences, find the hot points and replace those with the darker points and smash it all together, and you end up with a nice picture.
Are you going to show your picture from the first day of school too? Do you have that?
No, but I have a picture of the very first day I was wearing a Walkman. I used a Walkman.
Oh.
Yeah. I know what was
glasses?
playing here. What's that?
Is that you with the glasses?
Yeah.
Oh.
Awesome.
Are they smart glasses?
No. People thought I was smart because I wore glasses. I hated to disappoint them. Phil Collins, No Jacket Required, by the way. That's what I was listening to.
Phil Collins was my first concert.
Oh, nice.
Genesis,
That's
maybe?
a good first concert.
I don't remember. It was one of the two.
Mine was Lionel Richie.
I'm really excited about this. Like, I'm continually shocked at how Google Photos is always exactly what I want in a photo app. Like it's like you were listening to me. I took a picture of my grandparents the other day to post on Veterans Day, and it was like it took forever to just adjust it. And I'm sure I've taken that picture last year to post on Veterans Day, and I had to do it again. And just to be able to digitize them and put them in my Google Photos library and have Google Photos recognize my grandfather's face, to have all of his. I just think that's awesome. And
Super cool.
I don't care what personal information they're stealing from me.
Yet.
Security research firm Kryptowire has discovered spyware on 120,000 Android phones that slurp up personal identifiable information, including text messages, contacts, IP addresses, and more. The spyware, called Adups, came pre-installed on several different models of budget Android phones, including the Blue R1 HD and other devices sold all over the world, including in the U.S. market through Amazon and Best Buy. Now, mobile antivirus software wouldn't detect this kind of spyware because it assumes that the software that ships with a device is safe, right? They would assume that. The stolen data, all of this stuff that was spied on, was allegedly sent back to China. So, no good.
No good. Adups Technologies is for primarily, from what I can understand, for Chinese manufacturers to track user behavior for ad serving purposes in China. They say this was not meant to hit, phones released in the U.S. So, it's really hard to tell. No one's really kind of verified this beyond Kryptowire. So there isn't like a second party that I've been able to find that's really gone in there to see exactly what was happening. But yeah, I mean, Amazon pulled it from the list immediately. Blue was immediately, once they knew about it, hopped right on, removed it. They say that they've got that they have now fixed the problem and patched that hole. And Amazon is in the process of relisting.
So Blue is a Florida-based company. Mm-hmm. They're the largest maker of unlocked smartphones in the United States. I mean, are we talking about like $50 phones? Is that like $100 phone?
Some of the Blue phones are pretty inexpensive. Yeah, I'm guessing probably in that regard, or in that kind of range, $50, $100, definitely on the low end. And I think they have more expensive phones as well, but I think this is more isolated to those really low end devices.
So these phones were meant to be sold only in China, where everyone agrees it's okay to slurp up people's information. Or
I don't know if the Blue R1 HD was intended only for the Chinese market. It's actually sold here in the U.S. and also for the U.S. market. It's just not. What the question that I have about this is, if that's the case, then why did this adware that was only designed for the Chinese market end up on these U.S. phones? Like, that doesn't add up to me, and that's a little fishy.
It doesn't add up.
There we go. Up next, DJI has a drone that it hopes will make Hollywood drool. But first, let's take a minute to thank ZipRecruiter. They're the sponsor of this episode. Are you hiring? You need tools to make your job easier, to hire the right people. Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? That's what it's all about. They're out there. You just got to, cast your net far and wide. And doing that isn't always the easiest thing in the world. Posting jobs in one place is not enough to find all of those quality candidates. You need to cast it farther than that. If you want to find the perfect hire, you're going to need to post your job on all of the top job sites. And now you can do that. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job boards, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. You'll just post one time, and then you're going to watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. You can search by skills, location, work experience. You've got all the tools you need to find the right people, and even more. You can open it up further than that. ZipRecruiter's advanced matching technology delivers the most relevant candidates based on your criteria. ZipRecruiter offers optimized pages that look great on any screen, and you can actually add their unique mobile apply process for even more visitors and applicants. Find candidates in any city or industry nationwide, like I said, casting that net as wide as possible. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. That management can also be done by adding multiple users to your account to make it just easier for you. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses and is trusted by hundreds of Fortune 500 companies. More than 160 million candidate applications have been delivered. So whether you're hiring now or plan to hire in the near future, check out their blog for recruiting tips and hiring resources to make your job a little bit easier. Right now, you can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter is the fastest way to hire great people. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. DJI, arguably the leader in commercial and consumer drone technology, announced a few new higher-end drones today. And joining us to discuss these new drones is Mikey Campbell, senior editor at Apple Insider. How's it going, Mikey?
How's it going? Pretty good.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. So first, tell us a little bit about the Phantom 4 Pro.
So the Phantom 4 Pro, as DJ likes to call it, It's basically an upgraded version of the Phantom 4. It has a bunch of new features. Pro photographers will be happy to know that it's got a 1-inch 20 megapixel sensor. So that's upgraded from the 2.3-inch sensor that was on the last one. And probably the biggest thing about that is that it's a mechanical shutter. So you won't be getting that weird electric shutter wobble that you get from time to time when you get moving objects and stuff like that. And for the consumer side of things, they have a bunch of new sensors on it. So it's a lot easier to fly and a lot safer. You can fly it faster, and it has a really advanced obstacle avoidance systems in it. So you don't have to worry about, crashing into trees or light poles or not that I've ever done that, but
And then not that we wouldn't want to do that just for if it didn't cost so much. Explain a little bit about this obstacle avoidance, because they've really kind of built it out here with something called flight autonomy technology. Right.
So basically you've got 3 sets of visual systems at work. So it's kind of like a camera, but not really one that you can tap into per se and view on your iOS device or whatever you're using to control it. But it does have new sensors, especially ones in the back that are particularly interesting, which means that, when you're filming something in reverse, like say you're doing a fly-out shot or a reveal, you don't have to, you can concentrate more on what's ahead of you rather than what's behind you, especially if you're like taking a lot of footage in downtown or, somewhere there's a lot of obstacles like buildings and maybe even people. I mean, it's a really good system. They also added a couple infrared sensors on the sides, particularly good for indoor recording.
Nice. Now, this also works in tandem with iOS, as I believe the Phantom 4 did, right?
Of course.
You can explain a little bit about those controls.
So basically, DJI kind of built this system. They picked iOS to kind of piggyback off of. It makes things a lot easier for the drone maker to not have to worry about the framework that they're building the software on. So with this latest one, they built a couple new flight modes into it. So they got a bunch of active track technology. So you can, like, say with the I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mavic Pro. It has a bunch of new flight modes in it, so you can highlight a subject, say on a motorcycle or a person, and it'll track that person. The Phantom 4 Pro actually has a new mode that you can go from side to side horizontally, so it's good for like sweeping shots. And it has just a bunch of features that kind of mesh with the iOS ecosystem, just like the past DJI products have for, I don't know, years. It's kind of made them popular. So popular that Apple selling it in their stores now, right?
Sure.
They're doing something right.
So what's the battery life like on this one?
So this one, you can use the old batteries, but it has a new high-capacity battery that you can slap in for 30 minutes of flight time, which is actually really, really good for a drone this size. Drone makers have been kind of looking to get or hit that kind of mythical 30-minute mark ever since they started, creating these autonomous vehicles. It's great to have one, to have in your backpack. But then you take it out and, sometimes at the first one, you could use it for like 10 minutes, right? And then you got to fly it back, swap out the batteries. So it's kind of limiting. But when you have a high capacity 30-minute pack in there, it kind of frees you up, and it kind of realizes this dream of actually having a real autonomous drone like follow you around wherever you go, recording your action sports or whatever.
Right.
Whatever floats your boat.
It might even be floating boats.
It could be floating boats, yeah.
What about the Inspire 2? This is like on steroids, aimed, like targeting Hollywood. It kind of seems like, right?
Yeah, right. So the Inspire 1 was basically DJI's like top of the line all-in-one package. They do have the Zen Muse and higher level ones that you can attach your own cameras to, but this is kind of the all-in-one out-of-the-box package for professional filmmakers. And I was just watching. They released their kind of like promo vid for it, and the shots in there are pretty amazing. It's an all-new construction body. It looks like the old one, so kind of futuristic looking with the automatically raised wings, but it's a different material, magnesium hybrid. It makes it lighter, so it can go faster and stay in the air for longer. This one is interesting in that it has support for two battery packs at the same time, with the two on there and I think they call the X5S camera. It's 27 minutes of flight time if you have the two packs in there. So that is also impressive for a pro level camera that is this powerful. This thing goes like 67 miles an hour, so it can do highway chase scenes and all kinds of crazy footage. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, it's also cool. It has a detachable SSD drive. So the previous ones, you can use the SD card and be limited there, right? But if you're a filmmaker, if you're shooting in RAW and you're outputting in ProRes or something, you're going to need a bit more storage. And especially when you have a UAV up there for 27 minutes, you're going to probably be loading up that card. So you have a new SSD kind of thing that kind of slips in and out of the back, right near right in between the battery packs and the twin battery packs in the back. So that's kind of neat. It's a good. It's actually a well thought out and executed design.
And the quality kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, DJI released. We've been watching as you've been talking this kind of short film that was shot using nothing but the Inspire 2, and I'm sure. Like you can tell in some of the scenes that it's hovering and it's doing its thing. In other scenes, I have a feeling they probably have it mounted in some sort of sense, because I don't know how you get some of these shots with a hovering drone, to be honest.
Yeah,
but I mean the quality is superb. It looks amazing. Right.
And this one also has just like the Phantom 4 Pro has a bunch of sensors. This one also adds a bunch of sensors, including up-facing visual sensors, so you don't hit the ceiling when indoors, which is you don't want to crash your $6,000 drone, right? And also for this one, I think, there's a new secondary camera that is just a front-facing kind of low-res camera for the pilot, because this drone is actually designed to be piloted by one person and camera operated by another, using either the iOS linked device or a secondary remote. So let's say like the pilot can view the feed of where the camera or where the drone is going, and the camera operator can take care of all the footage. So that's kind of a plus as well.
Super cool stuff. Obviously, we're gonna have to save up some money in order to get one for ourselves. $6,000 is no joke. But we're not the target audience at all. Mikey Campbell with Apple Insider. Really appreciate you taking time this afternoon to chat with us about this. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me anytime.
Excellent. Find you. What's your Twitter handle?
Twitter's at Mikey Campbell 81.
Excellent. Everybody look up Mikey. Appreciate it, Mikey. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
After the break, Twitter will let you mute the naughty words in your notifications. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. Now, we're all used to losing our possessions. Newsweek reports that the average American wastes 55 minutes a day looking for things they own but cannot find. I feel like I'm probably more around the 62 or 65 minute a day level. Tracker makes losing things a thing of the past, and I will tell you how to get one for free. The Tracker Bravo locates misplaced keys, wallets, computers, backpacks, bicycles, even pets in just seconds. The coin-sized device is constructed with anodized aluminum for the thinnest, most durable tracking. You can easily attach it to your items via key loop or adhesive. Tracker is enabled by Bluetooth LE, so the battery lasts up to 1 year. You can add a laser engraved message to each Tracker Bravo, like return information or pet information. You can also now personalize your tracker with a custom printed image. Pair your tracker with your iOS or your Android device and find its precise location with a tap of a button. It's that easy. Your phone can track up to 10 devices at once. You can customize two-way separation alerts so you're notified before you leave your item behind. And if you lose your phone, just press the button and your phone will ring, even if your phone's on silent. There are over 3.5 million devices shipped. That makes Tracker the largest crowd GPS network in the world, so your lost items show up on a map even if it's miles away. If you lose your item, the Tracker app records its last known location on a map. Then, when another Tracker user comes within a 100-foot range of your item, you'll receive a GPS update of where your item is. Go to thetracker.com and never lose your possessions again. Plus, just for our audience, if you enter promo code TNT, you'll get a free Tracker Bravo with your order. That's TheTracker.com, promo code TNT to get your free Tracker Bravo today. In the week since the election in the U.S., the already rampant abuse on Twitter has just gotten worse. Joining us to talk about some of the new anti-harassment features that the social network is implementing is Katie Benner from the New York Times. Welcome back, Katie.
Hey, it's great to be here and great to see you.
So what are some of the new tools that Twitter announced today?
I think a couple of the big ones, they've made it easier, the process easier to report abuse, and they've streamlined that process. But more importantly, they've allowed people to report abuse even if it is not happening to them. The reason why this is important is because a lot of people mute accounts that are saying mean things to them on Twitter. So if somebody's saying something horrible to you, oftentimes your inclination is to mute it so you don't have to see it, but you really don't know what's going on in the background. Those people probably still have accounts and they may still be talking about you. They may be even doing things like doxing you, aka putting your personal information on the internet. So if you're a bystander and you see this behavior happening, you can report that behavior. I think that's really important. Also, I just mentioned muting accounts. Before you had to mute the user. Now you can mute key phrases and topics of conversation that you don't want to be part of. So, for example, I'm sure that we all remember during the election season, there were certain memes that existed on Twitter around, frogs, for example. I won't be more descriptive than that because it's too depressing. And that was, that handle or mention of Pepe the Frog is something that you could have muted then as well if you didn't want to see certain white supremacist memes going around on Twitter in the run-up to the election. So that is also an improvement. And then finally, internally, the company has done more to train its own employees around spotting abuse. So there was a time when people would report something as abusive, but culturally, a picture of a frog on Twitter might not ring as abusive to somebody who's working for Twitter but not located in the U.S. So they've done more to sort of educate people within Twitter about common memes that are considered either hateful or abusive.
So there's some of the things that, whenever they come up with something new, I'm like a broken record. Like, why did they take them so long? Like, for example, like the difference between muting and reporting. Like the reason why people mute instead of report or block, but the difference between blocking and muting. Unless you've been harassed on Twitter, you might not understand that when you block someone, people get really mad. So a lot of times it's easier just to mute them. Then you don't know. It's like, like you said, like they're just shouting into the void. You don't have to see it, but then, like you said, you could be doxxed. You could be, your reputation could, while you're quietly, I can't hear you, your reputation could be ruined. So do you have any idea why it took them so long to implement features like what you're talking about? Or like, for example, being able to be a bystander reporting abuse? Like that seems like a basic thing that we teach children in elementary school, like stand up when you see someone being bullied. Why did it take them so long to implement the ability to report abuse when it wasn't you being abused?
Well, two things. I'll start by giving you Twitter's current thinking in defense, which is that they do understand this is a problem. And so they said that we should expect to see more products roll out. We should see the cadence of product rollout really increase around anti-abuse tools. So they are taking this seriously, and we should hopefully see that in what happens with the product. Having spoken with former employees, it's clear that Twitter just didn't take it seriously for a while, which is why it took so long to make some of these basic changes. I wouldn't go so far as to say they didn't care about people having a horrible experience on the site, because obviously they want people to have a good experience, or they're not going to sign up and they're not going to come, which we've seen to be a problem for Twitter. But they honestly didn't understand how corrosive the experience could be for people on Twitter. And part of that was because I think, this is not the most diverse executive team, and it wasn't the most diverse company, and that their own lived experiences, they had no firsthand experience with how hard it can be to be on a public platform like Twitter and incur that kind of really horribly violent language. They just didn't really have a concept of it. It's not an excuse, but I do think that's one of the reasons it took a long time.
And I mean, also they will also say that they want to protect free speech. Each time you take away some of what Twitter once was, a lot of people say, look, that's my free speech. But when you talk about muting, on my end, then that's how, if I want to mute, if I want to stop hearing what you're saying, I can do that, and I'm not inflicting your free speech if you get to continue saying whatever you're saying.
Of course, and Twitter started very innocently in a lot of ways. It was a communications platform amongst friends or people who had topical interests who wanted to meet other people. It's sort of if you think about the early days of the internet, the idea was that the information was always coming from a trusted network, right? It was always coming from a trusted sender. So it was either a university or a government. So the internet was not built to have all these protocols that we're trying to put into it today around safety and, around trust, because it was begun in a very different way. I think Twitter similarly, I wouldn't say that Twitter is as important as all of the internet, but that Twitter similarly, when it was created, nobody anticipated that this was going to become a tool for hate speech, that this was going to become a tool to abuse people with whom you don't agree. That was just not really something that people thought of as a possibility when they launched Twitter.
It was really a tool to share what you were eating for lunch.
Exactly.
And look where we've come to now. Is there any chance that that these changes were kind of furthered or kind of pushed through a little bit quicker? I know obviously Twitter has had plans, has had designs to roll out these changes in a wider sort of way. But, a lot has happened in the last couple of weeks. Is there any indication that any of the most current events are kind of influencing their timetable on really just kind of speeding things up a little bit and getting it out there so people can use them?
I think for the updates that were announced today, no. A lot of them are extensions of things that were announced last year or at the beginning of the year, and I do think that they've been in the works. But I cannot imagine that the events of the last month haven't encouraged a lot of social media companies, not just Twitter, but Facebook, to take a really hard look at the sort of influence they have and whether or not there are responsibilities that come with that influence and power that haven't been fully accounted for.
Sure.
So in your piece in the Times, you talk about the interview with Donald Trump on 60 Minutes, where when asked about harassment, he said, "Stop it." To the people, he said, "Just really stop it." Do you think that that's going to stop it?
We're gonna see. This is gonna be a pretty wild next few months and year. I think that his cabinet picks go a long way toward. They say a lot as well in terms of how he feels about different people in the country and who is important and who is not. So that will be something to look to really closely, whether or not he tones down the rhetoric on Twitter. It is good. I think that it's good that he has told people who are ostensibly his supporters that they really need to stop being abusive. That is what we would expect from our leaders and role models. Mm-hmm. And let's hope that he continues to do so without needing a lot of prompting from others.
Well, when you read about the social history of mobs, which I think that's what is happening in a lot of areas of Twitter. There are mobs, and there's with a mob, there's the first person throws the rock, and then everyone else gangs up and doesn't even know why they're throwing the rocks often. And I feel like that is what's going on. That
has been Twitter for a long time too. So
yeah, really.
I think that it's interesting to see a lot of, like I said, a lot of soul searching, a lot of consciousness within the companies now, especially that they see that, they might want to say that they were not a big part of the election results, but certainly they were. Certainly social media companies and their distribution of news and opinion and thought and conversation, have replaced to some extent the physical town squares that we all once had.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other feature that I think has a little bit to do with anti-harassment, but just for if you've ever been like CC'd or added on a tweet that lasts forever and everyone's continuing, like you can now thankfully remove yourself from those. So whether it was harassment or just some discussion of the latest, iPhone 7 battery.
The latest episode of Westworld.
Yes. Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's
you
what
can now excuse yourself from those.
Yes, exactly. Which that I think we'll all be thankful for that. So they're rolling out slowly. They're not out yet, right?
Right.
Okay. So you also, like I said, the news never stops. You also wrote about Snapchat's IPO. What's important about that?
So, Snapchat's going to be a huge IPO. We have not seen such large IPOs since Facebook and since Alibaba. So the sheer size of it is going to be extremely important. So there is that. Also, Snapchat, there is so much investor interest in it. And we haven't had a huge, clean tech IPO in a while. I'll just put it that way. We've had some pretty big unicorns go out like Square or Box. They had, certainly they had issues. They had ratchets, meaning that some of the private investors got more stock in the IPO in order to guarantee them a return, which then, of course, had a negative impact on other private investors. So there's some messiness there. We've seen smaller companies, smaller enterprise companies go out that haven't had as much attention. Snapchat's going to be a big consumer tech IPO. So it's going to sort of set the tone for all of the companies that come after it, if it's the first of the big unicorns to go. And if it's very successful, that does bode well. It will indicate some sort of investor appetite for these private companies.
Well, so, I know harassment on Twitter was just like a little rumblings for a long time. And now, within the last year or so, it's become something that's really affected the company's bottom line, where Snapchat somehow skirts that. Like you hear people sending snaps that they might regret and someone screenshotting it and sending it. But it's not a social media that we think of as a place for harassment. So do you think that in that sense, like they'll do well because what we think of them as, beautiful yellow robots from the sky that selling sunglasses?
It's so friendly, right? We're just here to sell you sunglasses. Yeah, I think that's true. Well, first of all, Snapchat is not a one-to-many platform. You have to be able to find friends in order to connect with them. You have to do a little bit more work. So if somebody gets into a fight with me on Snapchat, first of all, it's generally private. But if it's not, if we're going back on Snapchat in a way that others can see, like if I do a Snapchat story all about how I really dislike you, Megan, this is not a one-to-many platform in the same way that Twitter is. And if you do the same thing with a celebrity on Twitter and that celebrity engages you, you've suddenly reached tons of people, even if you're just an egg who 12 people follow. So there's a little bit less incentive. You're not going to get as famous fighting with people on Snapchat as you might on Twitter, or Twitter famous, whatever that means. And also there isn't, in addition to less abuse, all of the news on Snapchat, all of the channels in Discover are verified, vetted content creators, whether it's Cosmopolitan Magazine, whether it's We the People, which I think is Jim Vandehei's channel, whether it's CNN. This, is real news. These are not fake stories created in order to, generate advertising dollars. So that is also a really big difference.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for all your work. Katie's at the New York Times, nytimes.com, and KT Benner on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, TNT's fan of the day is Rob Weber on Twitter, who says, I listen and glance over to TNT while editing. Rob is actually a video editor at CBS Interactive and works on Roadshow. So Very good work over there. Appreciate you sending this in, Rob. And you can show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it. Up next, everyone is obsessed with Wi-Fi, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, let's take a minute to thank Epson. They're the sponsor of this episode. Epson's revolutionary cartridge-free EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. So if you're not a fan of those ink cartridges, tracking them, where do you store them, where do you find them, all that kind of stuff, I have that problem with my printer right now. You don't have to worry about that here. Instead, you're dealing with a refillable ink tank, essentially. It's an amazing, innovative, refillable ink tank. So you get the pouches of ink. You just fill it right up when you need it. Earned it the title of CES 2016 Innovation Awards honoree. So no more out-of-ink frustration. It includes up to 2 years of ink. That's equal to 11,000 black pages or 8,500 color pages. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement bottles, and it's powered by precision core printing technology. It also has auto two-sided printing and a 30-page auto document feeder. It's easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones, which is not an easy feat. I've tried that on other printers. It's a pretty big challenge, actually. Here it's made very easy. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. The Epson EcoTank system was named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. Visit epson.com/EcoTank today. You're going to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision. All right, so Wi-Fi, wine, good TV, and sex. Which of those is most important in this day and age?
Yes, all of them.
Yes, all of the above. According to a survey of 1,500 people to iPass, Wi-Fi has risen to become the most important thing. No longer a luxury, but instead a necessary part of life in the digital age. Now, iPass sells Wi-Fi products, so, take it with a huge, like a brick of salt. But honestly, I'd guess it's probably not that far off. I think a lot of people would probably choose Wi-Fi over many other things in their life.
Chocolate over chocolate?
I don't know.
Do those people not like chocolate?
Maybe not.
Maybe they're allergic to
any
wine?
of these you could probably go, huh? But Wi-Fi, think about it. Like, when was the last time you didn't connect to Wi-Fi in a single day?
Oh, that's sad. I don't want to admit that.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, I don't want to know. I don't know. And I don't. Yeah. Like, I'm good if I stay away from Facebook for like 6 hours on a Saturday.
Exactly.
I feel pretty good about myself.
Exactly. At this point, we're all very used to being connected all the time. And apparently, in the case of this study, half of the participants spent less than 1 day without internet for the entire year. Mm-hmm. When I think about it, the only way that I would not connect to the internet is if I went on vacation somewhere and I absolutely could not. You know? Like any other case, true. I'm connecting in some way.
I am going away it was my husband and I's 16th wedding anniversary, and I got a place that has no Wi-Fi.
Nice.
So hopefully it has cell service. That's all I can say.
No, you don't want any of it. Just take a total break.
Hopefully it has chocolate. That's what I meant to say.
There we go. They might put a chocolate on your pillow when you go into the room. Red Roof Inn, by the way, hotel chain, also conducted a survey of its own, found Wi-Fi was the most important thing that guests wanted, more than free breakfast, more than parking, more than in-flight entertainment, all that stuff. So apparently we place Wi-Fi up on a pedestal. It's really important.
It is important.
Yeah. It's kind of depressing to admit that, isn't it? That's it for this show. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. And you can find us on Twitter. We're at TechNewsTodayTV.
If you want to wish your friends a Merry Twitmas, it's very unpolitical. Just Twitmas, Merry Twitmas. We all celebrate. Come on, I know you do. Use our very own ugly Christmas sweater design to wish your friends a Merry Twitmas. We're offering this exclusive design for a limited time. Grab yours before November 23rd. That's sneaking up on here. Teespring.com/Twitmas. And if you want to subscribe to our show, you can do that. You can find all the ways at twit.tv/TNT. And if you do not have Wi-Fi, you can tweet at me at Megan Maroney. No, you can't because you don't have Wi-Fi.
Oh, no. Too bad you can't tweet at me because I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter and you won't have Wi-Fi, so you won't be able to do that. I'm sorry. Next time. Thanks to our technical director, Kevin, also our editor, for pushing the buttons on the board. Thanks to Burke for scrolling words on the screen. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.